two, one. Welcome back to another episode of AT Talks. We're on topic two. We're talking burnout. We have four guests today. We have Greg, we have Mike, we have Anthony, and we have Andrew. Thanks for joining us today. We're just going to talk briefly about burnout. If you've ever experienced burnout, what you like to do to prevent it, and what do you do when you get too far into the hole and you're experiencing those burnout symptoms. So if anybody wants to start, go ahead.
Well, the way I see it, I think about burnout in two different ways. I think burnout can go from the environment that we're in. You know, we all understand the duties and the hours of an athletic trainer, right? So we're at the mercy of the athletic schedule, unfortunately. So our weekends are usually shot, our nights are usually shot. It is what it is. That's what we chose to do. So that's all good. But I also think too, for the hours that we put in, our pay contributes a lot to our burnout. Because if you're thinking, man, I'm putting in all these late nights, all these weekends, and I'm getting, I don't know, ballpark $40,000 a year. After a while, that doesn't feel worth it. What do you guys think?
Especially if there's no prospect to grow from that. You know, there's no next level. This is it. This is all you're going to get. I think that can be very demoralizing and really, like you said, kind of lead to that burnout. Definitely.
I also think too with the people that you work with, if you have a good group of coaches, administrators, and they're really supportive to athletic training and what we do, I think you're able to stave it off for longer. But if you're in a situation where you're not getting the resources you need, the people you're with don't really understand what we do, and they don't really support it, you're kind of just, there's Andrew, there's Anthony, there's Mike, there's Tom, and there's Craig. They're just covering games. I mean, that's like 2% of the gig.
Yeah, like I think you pretty much kind of said it perfectly right there when you're talking about like your environment and stuff, right? So I think I've worked with military, I've worked with high school, I've worked with JUCO, I've worked NAIA, and then I've worked at NCAA. So it's kind of like one of those things where it's like the people you work with, the environment itself, like plays a major role, right? Like at the end of the day, a lot of people now, you can kind of see it a lot where individuals are more like, is what I'm doing, is it worth it? And am I getting back what I'm putting in? That's ultimately at the end of the day what people really want to know, right? So, you know, we don't do this job for the money. Would it be great, obviously, if we get, appreciated as a profession on the whole more? Yes, of course, right? But for a lot of individuals, and this is just from a lot of my friends in the tech field, it's like a lot of them make a bunch of money, but they are not happy and they're burning out too. So it's kind of like a big thing. It's like that reward of what you get, right? But I think environment plays a major role, and then also your environment outside of the workplace, which for a lot of people, especially in the athletic training world, is non-existent.
Yeah, I think it's important that we all, we're all given sick days, we're all given vacation time, and we aren't robots, but like robots, we need to recharge our batteries. So I think it's really important for us to be okay to say, you know what, I'm gonna hand this job off to someone from Go for Ellis, and I'm gonna let them handle this for this week or weekend, and I'm gonna go take a trip because, I'm a human being, I got to survive, and I got to have vacation, I got to spend family time. It's all important for all of us to have longevity in this field.
Yeah, I agree that you need to be able to take that time for yourself. I did not do that early in my career. I worked a lot of long hours and then didn't take the recovery time that I needed to, whether it was making sure I got home and got to sleep early, kind of things that I do now. I make sure that I protect my sleep so I can recover. Also make sure I make time for my family, also making time that I make time to work out and do stress relieving type activities. I didn't necessarily do that early in my career. Also am blessed to have two colleagues at my high school that I can share our coverage load with, which again, I was going solo early in my career. and kind of felt the need at that time to not take days off. But with time learned that if I'm not taking care of myself, I'm not going to be able to take care of others.
All right. So what advice would you guys give people who are they're not in burnout, but they're starting to feel it. They're starting to wake up and take a couple extra minutes in bed, like, oh man, we got two basketball games today and a basketball game tomorrow, and then we got wrestling, and they're starting to get there. What advice would you give those individuals?
I would say just to hang in there, and to know that there is a light. You know, every season comes to an end. We always have, I don't know, 2-3 weeks in a row that are jam-packed. But then, you know, as soon as fall sports season's over, as soon as winter sports season's over, as soon as the spring's over, we all get a couple of weeks in between there where everything slows down and we can kind of step back a little bit. So if you can just kind of hang in there for those tough weeks where you got back-to-back home games, and then you're traveling, and then you got to go in early on a Saturday to prepare a team that's traveling on a Saturday. Just know that it all ends. And then before you know it, the summer comes and we get a month or two off, depending on where you work.
Yeah, I would say the biggest advice I could give is don't deny it. I think especially as young professionals, we often kind of bring ourselves to the point of saying, well, I can't be burned out this early in my career. It's only year whatever, or I must just be something wrong with me because I shouldn't be feeling this way. And I think that's causes a lot more anxiety and everything that goes along with that. So don't deny what you're feeling. So if you're feeling like you're burning out, you're probably burning out. And like you said, there's things you can do to be proactive. Like Craig was saying, taking the time for yourself, whether it's going to work out and like Andrew was saying, taking those days off and whatnot. It's all stuff that can help you in the long run to keep from burning out, to keep from getting too deep in the hole. But I know for me personally, I found it definitely to be cyclical. So I know I've been in and out of burnout multiple times with multiple jobs. And part of that, I think, is as athletic trainers, I think we have that desire to be, absolute high performance, the best sports medicine professionals that have ever walked the earth. And I think that drive pushes us to kind of take on more than we should. And that's part of it is also knowing your limits. So if you do feel like you're burning out and you have other stuff coming on, ask for help. Ask your supervisor or a colleague, somebody, hey, can you help me cover this and this? I'm not feeling at my best right now. I just need a little time to recharge. And I think every single person in athletic training would be like, yep, I get you, no worries. So I think it's definitely don't deny it and definitely take action, take whatever steps you can to fight it off.
Burnout typically doesn't happen like overnight, right? So, I mean, it's a lot of it is just kind of coming down to the fact of making sure you set those boundaries as well, and just make sure that I really can't stress this enough. And this is just some of the athletes I've spoken with too, where they're just like, it's like, oh, I'm going to like a D1 institution. That's cool, but if you don't put in the effort to enjoy your life, you're not going to enjoy your life. It doesn't matter. You could throw a bunch of different reasons out there as to why certain things are the way they are, but ultimately it's the choices you make, right? But for early on in the career, just remember, you're not saving the world here. You're not, and you're going to get a lot of things right, and you're going to get some things wrong. Hopefully that's the ratio you got going for you, So at the end of the day, though, still it's like, look, you're not saving the world. All right. You're helping these kids out. You're helping these athletes out. You're doing the best that you can. And ultimately you need to be happy with what it is that you're doing at the end of the day, and like, I think it was Andrew that said earlier, it's like, yeah, the season's going to end at some point. Like it will end and you will get breaks. And a lot of that is just kind of going back into the whole environment and just establishing those relationships with your supervisors and with your colleagues. And it's like, look, I don't feel like working a 14-hour day. Let's split this up so we are both not having to do something ridiculous like that. right? So, you know, I mean, I'm not sure what like where a lot of you guys are at. So, you know, like in the collegiate setting, it's like very common for people to put in those long days, multiple, you know, and it's still happening, right? So, I would just say really just kind of, you know, boundaries and just making sure that you have a good environment once again, and just know you're not saving the world. So relax, breathe, you know, and enjoy life. Drink coffee.
You want to add anything to that, Craig?
Coffee is good.
Don't forget beer on the week on your off days.
Oh, of course. Yeah, of course. Of course.
That works
Yeah.
well. Yeah, good balance between the both.
All right.
This is my off afternoon. I'm still having coffee though.
What advice would you give the athletic trainers that aren't in the sports settings where the season doesn't end, where maybe you're in industrial, where that's all year round, or maybe you're a teacher, that kind of sort of ends, but doesn't really, and then you have the athletic training as well, different settings.
I think just really planning, trying to plan ahead. So you, again, when you're going to have busy times of the year with teaching as well, when it comes to exam time and tournament times, if you're balancing school with the sports schedule as well. So I mean, you're going to have some days where you have 12 plus hour days if you're teaching a full load, and then providing healthcare after school as well. And I guess I have not worked in the industrial setting, but I would assume you just, again, looking at your schedule, and again, look ahead, be conscious about planning things to do for your own recovery, for your own rest. And just as much, I mean, for example, just as much as I would have loved to come out to East Chicago to watch some of my wrestlers wrestle, I knew that was a Saturday that I had off, that I needed to spend time with my family and recharge. And I knew you guys were taking good care of my wrestlers, and I was, you know, able to watch some of those matches on Facebook Live. So again, when I was younger, I probably would have tried to be at every athletic event, even away if I didn't have coverage at home. But with my being 25 years now as a certified AT, I've learned, you know, I got to kind of pick my battles. What do I need to do to take good care of my athletes? But then also at the same time, when do I need to stay home and recharge, and also spend that important time with my family and friends.
Yeah, I think speaking in the from the industrial setting, because I've been there, it can be a struggle, because for me in my position there was no real schedule. There was a schedule. I knew I was working basically from 4 a.m. to 4 p.m. every day. So it's a little rougher out there like that. But aside from that, you know, I knew I only worked maybe 4 or 5 days a week. I would always get my 2 days off. So I knew on those 2 days I was off. I think in the industrial setting, the best advice I could give is, you know, kind of Andrew hit it on the head earlier, and, you know, Craig too, you know, you got those PTO days, those sick days, those days off, use them. It's what they're there for. You know, it's not something to hold on to and really feel like you have to be in the hospital in order to use a sick day. You know, especially working in healthcare, you know, if you're not on the ball, you're probably better off not being there than not being in the right frame of mind to deal with the situations that you deal with. So I think you do less harm not being there than being there in that sense. But definitely don't be afraid to use those resources that you have.
Outside of the regular traditional settings, I worked for the military for 2 years with Fort Benning at was at Auburn University as a war athletic training program, and one of the things that I think helped me out the most through that was actually school, to be honest with you, because it was a GA position, right? So you didn't really do the typical, like it's 20 hours and then you're doing grad work and stuff. So we had a research project, and for me, it was just enjoying the atmosphere of where I was in general, of just like the people that I was with is what really helped me kind of like deal with the burnout. Because, kind of like what Anthony was saying, the 4 to 4 for us, because they're technically Eastern time, and we lived in Central. So 5 a.m. is when PT started, aka 4 a.m. our time, and we're about an hour away. So we had to get up kind of early to get to work on time, right? So, the schedule was weird because I would sleep like 4 to 5, maybe 6 hours, because in order for me to get 8 hours of sleep, I had to go to bed at like 6 just to like get up at 2. I'm like, no, I'm not doing this. Like, I want to be able to like do things. And so I made that decision. I kind of planned it out, kind of like everybody's saying, just kind of figuring out your schedule and seeing what works best for you. But at the end of the day, you just kind of have to set the things that work for you. Like one thing isn't going to work for everybody, right? Like there's certain things that work better for everybody else. If you take 2 identical twins and you train them exactly the same, one of them will succeed more than the other one. It doesn't matter. So, it's finding out what works best for you, what helps you cope and deal with the stress, and then dealing with all of the things that you have to deal with in our profession. So, finding out what those stressors are and putting things in place to either minimize it, take it out completely, or in essence, help you deal with it, because there's obviously going to be certain things that that will always come up, but it's finding and identifying those things and then putting a plan in place that works for you in order to be successful and being able to be happy and to enjoy your job and stuff. And that, I think that can apply just about in just any setting in general or in career that you're in, is just kind of identifying those things. So traditional settings, they have come with all different things. When we were in the military, like nobody knew what the heck we wwere. You say athletic trainer and your drill sergeant's like, huh? Like, okay, so we had to completely explain to them how it was. And, in the beginning, it was rough because it was a brand new program. It's going to be that way. But by the time, we left, it still is a great program. And we were to really build that up and build those relationships. So it was just fortunate enough for us that the work that we put in, we got that reward, tenfold. So it worked out pretty good for us.
All right. Anything we want to add before we close, or we think we hit everything?
I mean, I think like just about everybody's kind of said, pretty good amount. And I think a lot of this comes down to environment, and identifying those stressors that are going to be bothering you most of your life, or whether it's, out of there and in work, and, it's identifying those things and putting a plan in place. You can keep letting things affect you, or you can take control and do something about it and be better about it. Whatever it may be, or, whatever it is that, that is stressing you out. There's multiple ways to solve a problem. You just have to be creative, and we're athletic trainers, so I'm sure we've had to, do some interesting things, whether it's equipment or pads or, taking, or just rehab in general, that just for some weird reason, the traditional stuff wasn't working. But I think, like we kind of talked about, is just environment and just making sure you're taking care of yourself, because you can't help anybody if you can't take care of yourself. Craig said it, perfectly right there. You really can't. It's just kind of what it comes down to. You just got to make sure, you're living life and you're happy. Yeah.
And just understand that if you're in a situation where you're feeling burnout and you're not, you're not, or the environment's toxic per se, you're not stuck. There's tons of opportunities in athletic training. We're still a young field. You can leave a job. It's okay. You can leave and find a new, better opportunity. And you shouldn't be ashamed to leave a long-time position where you felt underappreciated, or even a new position where you felt like you're being underutilized or being mistreated. There's tons of opportunities. Take advantage of them.
Yeah, I'd say don't let anybody ever tell you that what you do isn't valuable, and don't let yourself think that either, because the what we do as a profession is truly, I'd say, probably more valuable than I think anybody really realizes. I know from the industrial setting, to throw a number out there, I mean, we're talking savings of hundreds of thousands of dollars for having one AT somewhere. So to tell somebody that, for somebody to think that what we do doesn't matter, it's absolute nonsense. Don't listen to yourself. Don't listen to them if someone's telling you that. Know that you are valuable and what you do is valuable.
Yeah, as we continue to grow as a profession, again, the AT for all, hopefully all our schools will have multiple athletic trainers at each school, whether that's high school and middle school. And again, the more people we have helping, helps lighten the load. So looking forward to having more colleagues in Northwest Indiana and throughout the nation as more schools hire more ETs.
Mm-hmm. Well, I appreciate all four of you guys coming on and spending part of your day here to do this video. And I would really like to have you guys back for future topic. I don't know what future topics are because I'm going to let Twitter vote on them, but we'll find that out in the future. But thank you for spending your time to do this.